Now we have a very distinguished panel of experts will be speaking on more, precisely on the issue that really affecting the socio-economic development of people of the Gilgit-Baltistan. I have a first speaker, Mr. Michael J. Penders. Mr. Michael J. Penders is Chairman of Environmental Security International. He will be discussing the impact of development in Gilgit-Baltistan, the role of China and Pakistan, exploring cooperative mechanisms towards sustainability and environmental security for the people of Gilgit-Baltistan. Mr. Michael J. Penders, thank you.
Good afternoon. In way of background on me and the way we approach these issues, before I was chairman of Environmental Security International, I worked at EPA, US EPA, in charge of international criminal enforcement of environmental laws. I had been a prosecutor previously in the New Jersey and New York region implicated by the September 11th attacks, and became an international prosecutor of organized crime and terrorism after 2000. And I want to thank the UNPO for organizing this conference. And in fact, the International Campaign for Tibet was our first client back in 2001, where we did a satellite investigation of the Chinese development on the Tibetan tableau that was presented at the Earth Summit in 2002. So it's a great coincidence and important, because what we demonstrated with those pictures, those satellite images, is a picture is worth 1,000 words. And a symbol can be worth 1,000 pictures. And with that, I also want to thank Chairman Khan for his 1,000 or more words in way of introducing the political and geopolitical context. I want to thank him for his respect for the rule of law, internationally and national law. And as a lawyer, it's respect for the words and the rules. It's fundamental, because these words and laws will mean nothing internationally unless someone recites them and cites them, gives the precedent to take action upon it. They're just useless words on paper until someone uses them. And that's, we want to, the first, and when I want to thank the UNPO, what an important and timely conference this is. Because this week, the macro political and policy context has changed. There is a new examination of relationships in this region with Pakistan, China, and other nations. So the timing could not be better. So I thank for the timing for this important and timely conference. And we have some pictures here that depict some of the environmental devastation that occurred and cited by the chairman recently. And as they say, a picture can be worth 1,000 words. But these days, with the internet, there's so many pictures, so much information out there, it's hard to even keep track of it, right? I'd like to say we did this investigation, but I should cite the source here. It's some Japanese and Pakistani professors that did this study. And this is of some of the landslides and the destruction when the dam failed. If you can go up to the top, they'll see the top picture again. And we'll go down and just kind of go through it. Because, right there, stop, I think it goes south. Cases. Yeah, this is an article that you can find. I think we do have to go to the top. Now, the important point here, as alluded to by Chairman Khan, is this environmental devastation has taken place outside of the rule of law in some contexts. Both the Chinese and the Pakistanis have laws that apply to development in their countries. Or at least they have words on paper suggesting that. I have actually worked with the Chinese government in developing their environmental laws. And they purport to be moving towards best practices. And this always includes something of an environmental impact assessment before you develop, before you build something like a dam or something. And in all those cases, one of the hallmarks of environmental law is stakeholders communicating to the public, anybody whose lands or rights may be affected. And this would certainly include the people, the indigenous people, first of all, of Gilgit-Baltistan. It must, under international environmental law, and the very same environmental laws that the Chinese have adopted, and sometimes brag about how they're becoming a leading power in their implementation of environmental laws. So, one of the outcomes here, you can see, and when we did when we did the satellite investigation of the 50 years of Chinese development practices and its impact to the water, the wetlands, you can pick all this up now from satellites. So another power of the picture is that even the People's Republic of China is accountable to the world on some level, because we can all see the impact to the environment in real time now, more than ever. But unless you use these images and words to force action, it's just part of the, all the information that's out there that no one reads, or maybe glances at. But this is a picture of the region that was alluded to by Chairman Cock. And if you slide down, you can see the impact of the dam disaster. It created that lake and wiped out villages and many people and institutions. And this was just unilateral action of the Chinese in building this in a disputed area where they don't have any right to do so. So if the rules of international law and the principles of environmental law are to have force and effect anywhere in the world, it should be a region like this, where the rules of sovereign governments are in dispute and complicated. So I think when you look at the impact, why don't you scroll down, you can see this report, and I'll make it available in the record to look at stuff, take the technical issues, but you can see the assessments that are conducted by third parties about the impact to the environment, the people, and the ecosystem, wrapped by the way they built this dam and the problems they had with it after that, and the traditional problems of landslides in this region. Now, did the Chinese take into account best practices? Did they take into account the rights of the people to those natural resources when they went about building it? And if not, to whom were they accountable for? To whom? Well, we do have international organizations here. The United Nations, there are processes under international law, environmental law, which may be able to provide a voice to the people, the indigenous people, who have more right to these natural resources than the governments of China and Pakistan combined, in my opinion, in my view. Continue. You see, you could read this. I'll place it in the record, but you have technical analyses of the issues. You have photographs of devastation, and this is available in the public record. Continue that. Anyway, it's rather technical. Maybe I'll put that in the record. If people are interested in the technical issues, I'll cite this article because it's excellent. But it's just an example, one example of what's out there in the public record about what's happened. And this may constitute a violation of certain Chinese laws, rules, standards. But how are they to be held accountable? How are they to be required to take into account the people in the region as you would be, say, in the US laws before you take on the project, and most laws, including on paper in China and Pakistan, before you undertake a project like this. You do an environmental impact assessment, and you take into account all the people that have a stake or claim in the region to that, and then you come up with a plan that can be approved by consensus or opposed. And then you have legal action one way or the other. So that's one reason these projects can take a long time, because you have to strike a balance between protecting the environment, the natural resources, and develop. So you can develop in a sustainable way, or at least a way that has the support of the maximum amount of people who have a right and stake in these natural resources. And for example, India as well, they have a tradition. I conducted, I should say, an investigation with the People's Republic of China about illegal shipments of hazardous waste into China. And we cooperated and helped them build their environmental laws and train their police in how to enforce these environmental laws. And yet, it is a society that small concepts like due process are not well known in their legal system. They can enforce, in fact, there's an interesting comparison of the cultural and legal approach of different societies that goes something like this. And forgive me if I'm misquoting here, but in England, everything is permitted except what is prohibited. In Germany, everything is prohibited except what is permitted. In China, everything is prohibited, including what is permitted. And in Italy, everything is permitted, especially what is prohibited, which is why we've done a lot of work in Italy in recent years, but hope also to work in areas to respect the rule of law and to work together to find mechanisms and cooperative solutions to protect the resources and preserve them and develop them, but in a sustainable and fair way. And there are mechanisms that are available in that respect, and I just want to touch on, because I don't want to go too long, but it's possible. And you have United Nations resolutions and international law to set up something like a regional approach to environmental management in the region that could include India, Pakistan, formally at the governmental level, China, and the people in the region to become part of a compact or a cooperative mechanism to protect and develop these natural resources in an environmentally sound and responsible way. But that would take people moving forward, recognizing these approaches. It's happened in many other parts of the world where they take a regional approach to protecting water resources, create mechanisms such as a peace park. These are mechanisms that can be supported by NATO under the auspices of the Science for Peace and Security program. And also it's a concept of preventive diplomacy as well that is embraced by NATO and other international organizations, that if you can get parties in conflict working together to protect something that may be sacred in all their cultures, perhaps you can build a basis for broader cooperation going forward. And that has happened in places in Africa and in other places around the world where they began cooperating to protect water resources, or even the Balkan bear, in the Balkan conflict. They hold harmless the habitat of the Balkan bear. Even as they were killing each other in the Balkans, they agreed not to shoot this Balkan bear or protect its habitat. And maybe, if we can get people agreeing not to shoot the bear, maybe it builds the basis to stop shooting one another. So if you have natural resources that are sacred and have a claim in an area, there are mechanisms that you can use. And so just to conclude, I want to thank the UNPO again, thank Chairman Khan, and I look forward to working with these organizations going forward to get standing, real standing for people, the indigenous people of this region, so they have a voice in the international organizations and institutions that must be respected. as a matter of law. There are mechanisms, but until someone pushes with the bureaucracy or with formal legal action, it's very easy to ignore or disregard these mechanisms, and even disregard United Nations resolutions. So I look forward to working with you and would make available any of this technical work to anybody who is interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michael J. Penders, bringing forward very interesting aspect of the issue which is alien to that area and the people, and even to those governments which are controlling or indirectly involved in shaping up the policies on that region. China's and Pakistan's converging interests, converging geopolitical interests have seriously impacted the lives of the people in Gilgit-Baltistan. As you may have been following the reports in the media recently, that China has moved its troops into the Gilgit-Baltistan and Pakistan, Azad Kashmir. Apparently, they are claiming that their PLA troops' presence in Gilgit-Baltistan and other areas are for the reason of the reconstruction and helping the affected and flood affectees. But the fact is totally different, which is political and strategic. As you have, you may have been noticed that the changing in Chinese policies towards India and Kashmir is another aspect which needs to be examined and focused. And the policies, the China is, projects China is pursuing in Gilgit-Baltistan and Pakistan, Azad Kashmir, has to, China needs to tell that it needs to respect the environmental laws, it needs to respect the local voices there, it needs to involve the local communities, whether it is empowering the local community or not, what are the designs behind all that. And now my next